The sky in eastern Japan had just brightened. The first rays of sunlight penetrated the thin mist covering the silvery sea. In the silence of dawn, the sound of the ship's engine roared, tearing the peaceful atmosphere apart. That was when the fishermen of Hokkaido, famous for the traditional octopus fishing, began a long, arduous but also proud day of work. For them, the sea was not only a place to make a living but also a part of their soul, a place that witnessed generations of their ancestors going out to sea to find the most mysterious, intelligent and cunning creature in the deep, the Japanese octopus. The wooden boats painted in blue and white glided gently on the sea surface. On deck, sunburned men with calloused hands quickly prepared bait and earthenware jars, the secret weapon in the octopus hunting profession. They call them taketsubo, small jars with narrow mouths, dropped to the seabed like safe houses that octopuses cannot resist. These eight-armed creatures like to burrow into dark, secluded places to hide and ambush their prey. And that is the weakness that fishermen take advantage of. The waiting time is the hardest part. Each person sits quietly looking at the sea, their eyes looking far away. The wind carries the salty smell of salt, mixed with the smell of engine oil and the fishy smell of bait. In the distance, seagulls fly overhead, like the spirit of the ocean witnessing humans and nature playing the eternal game of appearing and disappearing. For Japanese fishermen, octopus fishing is not just about making money. It is an art, a matter of patience, a way for them to blend into the natural rhythm of the sea. None of them are impatient. None complain. They understand that the sea never disappoints those who wait. After a few hours, Mr. Saito stood up and tried pulling the first rope. His eyes flashed with excitement as he felt the unusual weight. The whole boat held its breath. The rope was stretched. Each jar was pulled up. Seawater splashed everywhere. Then from inside the jar, a reddish-brown body jumped out. Tentacles tightly wrapped around the mouth of the jar. An octopus as big as a helmet was struggling. There it is. A loud shout rang out, breaking the silence. Everyone rushed over, helping him remove the animal, placing it in a barrel of seawater behind the boat. The tentacles were still moving, spraying out jet black ink as a final reaction of survival instinct. One, then two, then dozens were pulled up. Some weighed more than 5 kilos. With rough skin, eyes like two black pearls sparkling in the sunlight. Each time an octopus appeared, the atmosphere on the boat lit up. It was a moment of crystallization of all the hard work, sweat and faith. For Japanese fishermen, each octopus not only has economic value but is also a spiritual reward. A testament to the skills and experience they have accumulated throughout their lives. At noon, the sun was at its zenith. The sea seemed to be quiet, with only the sound of waves gently lapping against the side of the boat. Fishermen spread out tarps and sat down to eat simple lunchboxes, white rice, a little dried fish, and a few slices of pickled cucumber. The food was simple but full of the taste of the sea. Some brought bottles of green tea. Others poured small cups of sake, sipping them amidst the vast scenery. They laughed and talked animatedly, recounting old stories, the time an octopus wrapped their arm around them. The story of a friend being pulled into the sea. The story of that year's big catch that made the whole village party all night. Amidst that laughter was a lifetime of attachment, memories filled with the scent of the sea breeze. In the afternoon, when the sunlight dyed the water's surface golden, they began their second fishing trip. The sea changed color with the sunset, the golden light blending with the blue, creating a scene that made anyone who saw it speechless. Mr. Saito looked into the distance, his deep eyes as if he wanted to talk to the sea. Every time I release the jar, I silently say to myself, please give me a few more. Enough to feed my family, not to be greedy. He believes that the sea has a soul. That humility is what helps people survive in this harsh nature. On the way back, the boat was loaded with crates of live octopus, the water in the crates bubbling as the animals continued to thrash about. Inside the hold, the sound of the engine mixed with the sound of the waves, creating a lulling rhythm. The men were exhausted after a day of work, but their faces shone with satisfaction. A successful day of fishing meant they could buy some more rice tomorrow, repair the roof, and maybe even have enough money to send their children to Tokyo to study. The sea had fed them like this for generations, but in return, it also took away many things: time, health, sometimes even their lives. Every ice melt season, hundreds of fishermen from Norway, Iceland, Russia and the Barents Sea prepare for a long voyage. The ships are covered with a thick layer of anti-ice paint. The decks are filled with huge steel traps, each weighing tens of kilograms, tied with cables as thick as a human wrist. No one talks much. Everyone knows that the work ahead is extremely dangerous. King crabs live in deep, cold waters, almost at the edge of the iceberg, where temperatures can drop below -20 degrees, and even the smallest mistake can cause lives to be swept away by the raging waves. The morning before departure, fishermen gather at the Norwegian port of Tromsø, considered the capital of king crab hunting in Europe. The sound of engines roars. Oil smoke spreads in the cold air. Each ship slowly leaves the dock, heading north, where the icy ocean awaits. Each boat carries the hopes of an entire family, because with just one good trip, they can earn enough to live for the whole year. But there are also those who never return, swept away in snowstorms, crushed by traps, or robbed of their breath by the cold water itself. When the boat reaches the fishing grounds, the sea surface stretches like a silver mirror, but hidden beneath it is a world of giant creatures. King crabs can weigh up to 10 kilograms, have a leg span of more than a meter, and their deep red shells glow like fire under the boat lights. Fishermen drop hundreds of traps to the seabed, each baited with herring, cod or squid, the distinctive fishy smell that these giant crabs cannot resist. The boys are Weather was the most dangerous enemy. Snowstorms came unexpectedly. The wind blew so hard that it could throw people off the deck. The seawater froze right on the cable, making pulling the cage twice as hard. Sometimes, they had to use ice hammers for hours just to free the device. European fishermen were no strangers to frozen hair, frozen beards, and bleeding hands from the cold. But in this harsh environment, they are resilient, because they know that the reward for their endurance is the fat king crabs, which sell for hundreds of euros each. On board, the work never stops. When the traps are pulled up, the fishermen quickly sort them. The crabs that have reached commercial size, usually males, with shells longer than 15 centimeters, are kept, while the female crabs carrying eggs are released back into the sea. This is a mandatory regulation to preserve the resource, and most fishermen strictly follow it, because they understand that the sustainability of their profession depends on how they treat the sea. The crabs are kept in deep cold seawater tanks, maintained at a temperature close to their natural environment to keep them alive until they reach port. At night, in the middle of the ice sea, the yellow light from the ship looks like a small candle in the dark space. The waves crash repeatedly, hitting the side of the ship like a series of punches. The fishermen work in shifts of 12 to 18 hours. Sleep is a few minutes of shut eye amid the roar of the engines. Some fall asleep leaning against the fish tanks, still clutching the anchor rope. Their food is simple: hot soup, bread, strong coffee, but it is this that fuels them against the bitter cold. 894 But when the boat is full of king crabs, all the fatigue seems to disappear. Crabs of bright red crabs are stacked on top of each other, each as big as a tray, with long, sturdy claws and a meaty body. They know that in the fancy restaurants of Europe and Asia, these crabs will become a luxury dish, served for hundreds of dollars per kilogram. Each successful trap pull is an indescribable joy, both a reward and a testament to skill and courage. King crabs are not only a symbol of wealth, but also a testament to the will of Europeans to conquer nature. This species, originally from the seas of Russia and Alaska, the white snow rolled along the shore of the harbor. The breath of the Japanese winter sea blew coldly like a knife. Among the long rows of blue-white painted ships, groups of fishermen in thick raincoats and rubber gloves prepared for a new voyage. They were not just fish hunters, they were warriors of the ocean. People who lived on every wave, every catch, every engine roar in the dark night. Before dawn, the fishing boats began to leave the harbor, leaving behind a long white streak of light on the calm water. It was the beginning of a journey that every Japanese fisherman was familiar with. Going to sea was not just a job, but a tradition preserved through many generations. On those ships, there were not only modern machines, but also hands thick with sand, eyes hardened by the waves and wind. They understood the sea as people understood their own hearts. They know when the fish will come, when the tide will turn, when to cast their nets, and when to retreat. Each fishing trip typically lasts from a few days to a few weeks. depending on the fish and the sea area. In coastal areas, small boats often use simple purse seines or trawls, while far out at sea, large vessels can carry hundreds of tons of gear, fish finding radar, and advanced satellite positioning systems. It all starts with the detection of schools of fish. Down in the control cabin, the captain watches the sonar screen intently. Every moving blip on the electronic map is a sign of life. As the fish move, they have to make quick calculations: wind direction, current, water temperature, and even the distance between the boat and the target. When everything is ready, a shout echoes across the deck. The fishermen pull out their nets in unison, the wrist-sized rope sliding through the pulley. Squealing, the giant nets were lowered into the sea, gradually expanding like a giant sail. The halogen lights shone on the water, creating a bright area in the vast darkness. Many boats also used light to lure fish, especially pelagic fish such as herring. Sardines, or squid, which are attracted to strong light at night. After a few hours of waiting, when the sonar signaled that the fish were completely contained within the net, the captain signaled to pull the net. The sound of the tractor roared, water splashed, and the sea surface began to stir. Each silver white, blue green, pink red fish struggled in the light. The salty smell wafted up, mixed with shouts, the sound of the wire rustling, and the sound of the waves. Each fisherman had his own position. One operated the winch, one pulled the net, one scooped the fish with a net. One sorted them. They worked in harmony, in rhythm, as if they had practiced thousands of times. For offshore fishing vessels, the process is even more rigorous. In bad weather, high waves can cause the ship to tilt, but the net must still be collected. Japanese fishermen are trained not to back down in the face of the sea. They know how to balance on a wet, slippery deck, how to rescue each other when someone slips, how to deal with sudden strong winds. During storms, sometimes the whole fleet has to quickly collect the net and retreat. But for the most part, they remain steadfast, waiting for the waves to calm down to continue working. When the net is pulled up, the scene is spectacular. Tons of fish glisten in the light, their bodies plump and shiny. Each tuna, mackerel, herring, sardine, and sardines are dumped onto the deck, sliding in long lines. The fishermen quickly select, classify, and put them in cold containers. On large vessels, there is even an instant freezing system. The fish is sent through a conveyor belt, cooled to -40°C to keep them fresh. With tuna, fishermen even pierce the fish's back with an iron rod as soon as it comes up to preserve the meat better. In the seas of Japan, there are dozens of different types of nets. Depending on the target, purse nets, trawl nets, drift nets, Double net nets. Light nets, each is a traditional technique that has been improved over the years. Hokkaido fishermen often use bottom trawls to catch cod and sea bream. Kyushu fishermen are famous for their strong light nets to catch herring and squid. Some nights, the entire sea is lit up like a floating city, the lights stretching to the horizon, where hundreds of ships operate at the same time, each an oasis of hard work. Inside the ship, the atmosphere is always tense. Each catch is the result of hours of monitoring and labor. If the fish move too fast or the weather is bad, just a little delay means losing everything. Therefore, Japanese fishermen have a special character, patient, precise and always disciplined in their work. Every operation is carried out like an assembly line, without any extra, without any omission. Even though they are tired, they still do not give up, because just a moment of distraction can cause the net to get tangled. The rope can break, and the whole catch can be lost. As the night ended, dawn began to rise. The sea gradually turned golden. The first rays of sunlight shone on the salt-covered faces. On the deck, the fish were packed. Salt water flowed down the floor cracks. The fishermen took the opportunity to eat a bowl of hot rice, a piece of dried fish, a sip of tea, and then started a new round. In the middle of the vast ocean, they seemed to forget their fatigue. For them, there was no day or night, only the times when the fish appeared. Many large Japanese ships operated continuously for weeks. When full, the mother ship would come to supply and transport the fish back to the mainland. The fishermen remained offshore, continuing to cast their nets, collecting their nets, repeating the cycle in the cold sea. It was a hard job, but also full of pride. Each fish they caught was the result of intelligence and sweat, a symbol of the seafaring profession that had existed for hundreds of years. In Japan, fishing is not just an economic sector, but the soul of the nation. From the small fishing villages of Aomori to the big ports of Misaki, Hachinohe, or Kushiro, the industrious fishermen are everywhere. Children grow up amidst the sound of waves and the smell of fish. Listening to their fathers tell stories about the times they cast their nets against storms. The nights when they pulled in schools of silver fish. And then they follow in their father's footsteps, continuing to go out to sea, carrying with them the dream of a full catch. There are nights when the sea is as calm as a mirror, the moon shining on the net like silver. There are also days when the waves are as high as mountains. The boats tilt, and the fishermen have to tie themselves with ropes to avoid being swept away. But no matter what, they still do not abandon the sea, because for them, the sea is a friend, an opponent, a place to test their courage. They believe that whoever dares to face the ocean will truly understand the meaning of life. On that journey, many stories were born, about fishermen rescuing friends in the middle of a storm. About ships that lost contact and returned after many days of drifting. About giant schools of fish that suddenly appeared after weeks of hopelessness. All became common memories of those who lived with the sea. When the ships returned to port, the sirens blared, crates of fresh fish were unloaded, and wives, mothers, and children ran out to welcome them. They were not only waiting for fish, but also for their loved ones to return safely. Behind each catch of fish is a world of silent labor that few people know about. Calloused hands, sunburned backs, wounds from ropes and nets. All are the marks of a harsh profession. But if you ask them if they want to quit, most will smile and shake their heads. The sea feeds us, they say. We also have to give back to the sea with our sweat. That is the philosophy of Japanese fishermen, to respect the sea. Catch just enough, and preserve fish resources for future generations. Many fishing villages have their own strict regulations on seasons, types of fish allowed, and minimum sizes. When the boats return, the fish are inspected, sorted, and any that do not meet standards are released back into the sea. Thanks to this discipline, fish resources around Japan remain abundant, even though the country has been exploiting the sea for hundreds of years. And then, when the sun sets, the boats leave the port. The lights come on, the nets are prepared, life continues without end. In the middle of the endless sea, Japanese fishermen are still diligently doing their eternal work, casting nets, waiting, and collecting the gifts of the ocean. Each catch is not only a livelihood, but also a testament to the strength, faith, and perseverance of humans in the face of the vastness of nature. They are people who are not afraid of the cold, not afraid of storms, only afraid of a calm sea without fish. Because as long as they can go out to sea, pull in their nets, and hear the waves lapping against the ship, they are still living true to the instincts of the Japanese. People born to conquer the ocean.